Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you, Nate. And we'll talk about recording. That's one of our topics. So
Yes, it is. But we shouldn't be
So
doing it.
you too don't make that mistake. We have an hour and a half today. I would love to do introductions that are a little bit more lengthy so we could get to know one another better, but we probably don't have enough time for that. So I'm going to introduce our presenters and then have you introduce yourselves. And our presenters for session 2 are the same generous experts that presented in session 1. They've agreed to come back. That's how much fun they had, and we are very grateful to them. Kathy Hazelton, the project assistant at Across New Hampshire. Yeah, that's great, Kathy, if you could wave. Abigail Blodgett, the SEL coordinator at Across. And I think we all know Nate Jones, Dr. Nate Jones, the lead of our school psychology team. Hi. Thank you all for showing up again and putting your time and effort into this. So I think what we'll do again is the popcorn introduction, where I'm going to ask Judy to start us off and just give us her name and her role at SERESC, and then call on someone who hasn't yet been introduced. And we'll do that until we're done. Thanks.
Can we take the PowerPoint down off the screen so we can see each other for a few minutes? All I've got is the PowerPoint.
Kathy, are you on a computer?
I'm on an iPad.
I'll be right back.
Do you have at the top of your screen a menu that says view options?
No.
Okay.
I do. Nope. I could use help with that, Abigail.
Okay. So if you're someone who's on a computer screen, right now at the top of your screen, there's a drop down menu that says view options. In an iPad, you might find a button with 3 dots. That's a more button. Yeah. You may have the option, if you have a computer, you should have the option called side-by-side mode.
No.
So Judy, that's for you or someone else on a computer who is only seeing the presentation and maybe 1 or 2 people and not gallery view.
Thank you. Got it.
And so for Kathy, I think that's okay. Liz, I'll stop sharing and then I'll reshare.
Sure.
That would be great. Thanks.
Here we are.
Okay, now I'll behave and do what I was asked to do. I'm Judy McCamey.
No, that was good.
And I lead the OTs and speech folks and operate a grant, the Nutrition Feeding and Swallowing Program. Over to you, Stacy. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Judy. I'm Stacy Orr, and I am a special education consultant and evaluator. Over to Kristen.
Hi, wait a minute, hold on a second. I am Kristen Herrick. I work with the vision team. I'm a teacher of the visually impaired who most often works with children with multiple disabilities.
And who would you like to choose, Chris, to introduce themselves?
Hillary.
My name is Hillary Pinkowski. I am the project assistant at PTAN, the Preschool Technical Assistance Network. I will pass it to Sandy. Oh, Sandy, did you hear?
No, I had a freeze up. Sorry. Thank you.
Your turn.
Hi. Okay. I'm Sandy Hogan, and I'm part of PTAN. I'm a childcare consultant, and I'm also working on as a practice-based coach, implementing pyramid model in a childcare center, and actually two childcare centers right now. So, and over to Stacy.
I think Stacy already went.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Nate.
And so listen, I'm Nate Jones. I am the lead of the school psychology team and also of the MEET team, the medical educational therapeutic evaluation team, which does complex or in-depth evals on students with a lot of really complex needs. And we do like 17 other things, as we all do, right? So I'll go from here to Kirsten.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kirsten McGee. I'm a school psychology consultant and behavior consultant as well. And Linda.
Good afternoon. I'm Linda LaFleur, and I'm the business manager here at SERESC. I will send it over to Mary Morris.
Hi, I'm Mary Morris, and I am a teacher of the visually impaired, as well as a special educator, and I'm a part of the MEET team. Oh, who hasn't gone? I was late.
Kathy.
I'm sorry, Kathy. Hi, Kathy, you're next.
I'm Kathy Skoglund, lead for hearing and vision teams. And Kathy Hazelton.
Thanks, other Kathy. Nice to see you.
You too.
I'm Kathy Hazelton. I'm the project assistant at Across New Hampshire, also a trainer and consultant for Across. I have a teaching background and I've learned a lot about using Zoom and presenting a lot with Abigail and a lot of our other team members on Across, and happy to be here today. And have we heard from
Christina.
Christina? Hi, welcome, Christina.
Hey, sorry. I'm Christina Chadwick, and can you hear me? I'm Christina Chadwick, and I'm a teacher for the deaf and hard of hearing with SERESC.
Thank you. I think everyone's been introduced. Am I right?
I have everyone written down on my list, Liz.
Me too. Okay, great job. It's really nice to hear a little bit about everyone's background. And I think we're going to go back to slide 3, which are the learning objectives.
Mm-hmm.
So Abigail will have that up. I hope you had a chance to review them in the handouts I sent out, but I'll review them quickly with you here. So this is really the soup to nuts presentation on how to design and implement an online PD offering. And that will include developing learning objectives, determining the length of your session and an ideal number of participants, hosting and sponsorship, marketing through our brochure and our SERESC website, and Zoom functionality, advanced features we didn't cover in session 1 that are super fancy, that will make your presentation really engaging, presenter skills and how to make sure that you don't have to jettison your own personality and personal style to be an effective presenter. And then I will wrap us up very quickly with some post-session items, the boring stuff like PD certificates and evaluation, but all very important. And of course, I will make it really exciting. So I am going to hand it off to Nate.
Sorry, Nate. I didn't mean to click that one.
I was going to say, I just asked for control of the slides and Abigail declined me. Let's try that again.
I thought I would start us off with some humor.
That's great.
All right, now I can control it. So I get to talk about sort of how do you basically take your idea, because at some point this all comes from you have to have an idea and make it into an actual real session that you're going to do at some point. And it kind of through this, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we brought this session into being, because it kind of follows the same flow. And let's see how to make these slides go. There we go. The basics, I mean, first basically there's preparation, and then we're going to do execution. All right. So we talk about preparation, get your idea, then really just go through who, what, how, where, and when. And when you figure all of that out, you then can make your brochure. And just to look ahead, when you figure out the execution pieces out, that's when you can make your budget. And budgets are good things because that figures out how much you're going to get paid. So this is the sort of nuts and bolts, this nitty gritty fun things about all this stuff. So point being, when you think about your idea, you know, when I've talked to people about doing PD, and I've done lots of PDs, lots of people have done lots of PDs, some of them like this, this is not an earth shattering, like brand new idea. This is just how do you do something that the 4 of us are pretty good at, and we thought maybe other people would benefit from learning about. So ideas can be just, okay, what am I good at? And what maybe are other people asking me questions on? What maybe is frustrating me at work that I feel like I wish was different? And so you don't have to, I think sometimes people feel like they have to have the world's best creative, inventive new thing. And you really don't, right? Especially for, I mean, lots of people on the training today, have good specialties that you're really good at, and other people aren't as good at them. So things you will feel are kind of like just everyday work, other people really want to hear. So just really encouraging folks to not be afraid of the ideas that you have, and then, you know, things you're good at, things frustrate you, things you get asked a lot of questions about regularly. That's what becomes your presentations. So once you have your idea, you got to figure out who. You got to have your target audience, as it always says in a brochure. And the main first question is this going to be to your own field? Like, am I going to talk to other school psychologists? Or is it going to be to other people in other fields? You know, next week we start up one of these 6-day series that we have that are for special educators. And so it's a bunch of school psychologists talking to a bunch of special educators and other kind of associated related service providers. And that helps define for you your complexity level, and what it is you're trying to kind of get across in those learning objectives. So you really want to know who it is you're talking to, because if you're talking to people in your own field, you're going to presumably present it differently than if you're talking to folks and from a different field. And the other piece you really want to go through is what your ideal group size is. Like when we did this, we said 15. We want to keep this small. Sometimes it's okay, it's going to be 200 and that's fine, or wherever it's going to be in the middle. You want to think about that ideal group size piece. Because when you have that really gets to the learning objectives. And so learning objectives, spend a little more time on this slide. Because this to me is really important. And I know when I started doing PD, unless someone forced me to do learning objectives, I often kind of wouldn't do them because they're annoying. But I really want to encourage you to do them when it's your turn to do one of these, because this defines what's going to be in your presentation. And they need to be measurable, right? So you always see learning objectives that are about learning. So participants will learn how to do this. They will understand how to do this. Don't do that, because you can't measure that. You want your learning objectives to be measurable, right? And measurable in the context of like a survey and a questionnaire to ask people, how'd you learn? How'd it go? Okay. You know, you're not testing people really at the end of PD usually, so you can't prove they learned anything. So you can't use words like learn as in an objective. And the other piece I think people struggle with is how many. And I kind of gave like broadness there. Like if you have like it's an hour, maybe a couple, 2, 3, a half a day, 3 to 5, a full day, 5 to 8. The idea being trying to capture everything you're going to say in those objectives. Not every nitty-gritty detail, but the big chunks of your day. What are you going to be presenting about? And you know, whenever I do presentations, I always have learning objectives, and the next slide is the agenda. And the agenda always matches the objectives, as it should, right? Because the objectives define the agenda. So these really do become important and do define what it is you're saying. And so one of the handouts you should have received is a verb list. And it is just, I think the one I got from Dartmouth years ago, but you'll see it kind of goes through, it's basically like a Bloom's taxonomy thing, which is the next slide, right? So these are some of the ones I use the most, but you just look at the different areas. It's knowledge, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create, right? So participants will learn to identify. They'll be able to describe. They'll be able to summarize, relate, complete, use. So these are all very actionable things you could ask. Did you do this? Yes. People will be able to give you real answers on whether or not they now can achieve these goals you laid out in the course of the presentation. And frankly, you will too. You know, we do a presentation that says people are going to be able to, use this tool. Well, then you better teach them how to use it. And so if you make an objective, make all your slides and go back and go, oh, I didn't ever do that one. You go back and you change your slides or you change your objectives. Depends how things played out. But you can see how these things really relate to each other. So this is just some examples. So the ones on the left are kind of abbreviated versions of some of what we did today. The ones on the right are not good versions of the same concepts. For those of you who are witty, you'll notice I labeled them as pretty good and not good. I didn't label them as great because we didn't blow them out of the park. Like if you do a presentation for the Psychology Association, they're going to get APA approval. They're really particular. And they will want to have you'll design and present 3 effective online. It's like they want numbers, and it gets much more granular and gets into almost the IEP goal level of granularity, which we all know is kind of annoying and sometimes actually interferes with what you're trying to say. So for things like this, it's actually okay to stay at that pretty good level. You don't have to go all the way up, because going all the way up almost becomes too detailed and you can lose the point sometimes, in my opinion. That's just me. So anyway, but if we compare design and present an effective online PD session to understand how to present an effective online PD sessions, it's the same idea, but you can see it's a subtle difference, right? So you're going to be able to do this, not to understand how to do it. Same concept, slightly different wording, easier to measure. You're going to develop learning objectives, etc., as opposed to learn how to write learning objectives, etc. It's just easier. You're going to know how to develop them. You're going to know how to use advanced Zoom functionality, right? As opposed to know how, you'll use it. Abigail's going to show you, right? So sometimes it is quite subtle like that, but it is different, and it's easier to measure, and it drives it better. And if you're ever running by me, I'm going to tell you I don't like it if you use the word learn, just so you know. All right. So you get all that stuff out. You get those done. If you need, again, one thing I didn't say is, as you're going through this process, the four of us, especially I think Liz and I, will help you get this done, right? When you get to trying to figure out learning objectives, it is tricky. You want to get good ones. They don't have to be perfect the first way through. They often get refined as you go along. But ask for help. Or part of this is, yes, we'll help you get it through. But if we do this, hopefully you'll be better at it the first time around. So, all right. Your brochure, right? You've described what you're going to talk about. You've described your target audience. You've described the learning objectives. And you describe how your session works. This often is skipped in the brochures, and I actually think it's important. Is it didactic? Are they going to be small groups? Is it a PLC? Like Stacy's developing a PLC session right now. That the fact that it's a PLC defines how it functions, and it's very different from like a more didactic training model. Is it small groups, large groups, and multiple sessions? Is there work between sessions? Like the 6-day series I'm doing has homework. We try to tell people that up front, so they're not surprised when they get homework. All these different pieces you want to figure out and you want to put in the brochure. So you want to think through all the different chunks. All right. When, where, this is a little more straightforward, but how long is it going to be? Does online work these days? I mean, everything's online, so hopefully it works. Multiple sessions and then potential dates. So as you're starting to develop this, start thinking of some actual dates. Be concrete. If you're in your head, if you can be. I think it's beneficial to start thinking of actual dates, because that, can start defining how much time we have to get it done. So lengthwise, people often ask well, how long should it be? And frankly, that's more about up to the presenter, because any topic can go from half an hour to 6 days. We're doing 6 days on emotional behavior disorders. I can teach you about emotional behavior disorders in 30 minutes. I just wouldn't go very deep. Or we'll do it in a half a day, a full day, 5 years. So any topic can scale. And that gets back to your target audience, the depth of your presentation, or that's why you figured out up front who you're talking to, because that maybe defines your length. So these things all do relate to each other, right? And we get that, and then we can make our brochure, right? So the other, I think other my handout you got is the brochure kind of requirements worksheet, which has these sections in it. And again, we can help you figure out how to word each section. Feel free to do a rough draft, send it to us. We'll help you work it through. Obviously, the more you flush out, the better off it's going to be. And that's all it takes. I mean, that's how you make your idea functional. So are there questions on that part right now? That hopefully, I mean, it's relatively straightforward. It's details, but it's a process.
I don't have a question, Nate, but I do want to say I have used Nate's objective verb list and his objective formula since we met last fall, and it has made a world of difference to my training.
Great. Yeah, good objectives do make a difference.
Huge difference. So that handout is gone. I've printed it off 3 times. It's in every location where I work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a bunch if you Google it, there's a ton more online. You Google Bloom, there's a ton of Bloom stuff online. But yeah, having good objectives does make a big difference. It really does make your trainings better. The other questions on this up to a brochure point? If I can't see everybody, so just start talking if you do. Don't wait for us to call on you. All right, let's roll because we got lots to get through. All right, so now you've got a brochure, you've got your idea, you've got a plan. Let's make it happen. Okay, what do you need? Who's going to host it? Who's going to handle money registration? How are we going to market it? Make a budget. Let's get it done. All right. And when I first did the slides, I had a 7. Now I've handed that off to Liz, which is the after it's done, there is still things, right? And so the stuff Liz talks about at the end, feedback forms, PD certificates, that stuff's important too, but it's not in here as much because Liz is getting that done. So what do you need? These things impact how much stuff costs. Do you need co-presenters? Here we have 4 co-presenters, right? Okay. Do you need a moderator? So a moderator is, to me, these are my definitions. A moderator is another person, another trained professional in the area. So if you're talking about school psychology stuff, it will be another school psychologist who's maybe moderating the chat list, moderating questions, doing something that requires that knowledge base. Whereas a facilitator is someone who's maybe just doing the technology pieces or helping start and end things or just logging on and being friendly and stuff. And I've done some, and Liz has come in that facilitator role at times where I'm working with special ed directors. So I'm there to do the content. Liz does the introductions, the conclusions. It was good. It's just good to have it be a SERESC presentation. So Liz comes as the program director and the facilitator in that role. But I'm not asking her to do moderation of things, just do the facilitation. So all the roles are important, but they each take different amounts of time. Most people who can facilitate on the fly. It doesn't take much prep to facilitate. To moderate takes more prep. To be a co-presenter takes obviously a lot of prep. And to be the main presenter takes the most. So these things all kind of roll together, impact how much folks should get paid if you get paid. Sometimes you don't get paid, but these things all go together. It just can define that, right? Technology, materials, these are both pretty low right now. I mean, obviously you have to have, and if you go back to session 1, we talked about like lights and cameras and computers and all that stuff. So you do need some of that technology. In-person trainings, though, we get into needing microphones and speakers and projectors and, blank walls and all this stuff. So there is stuff there you might need. Again, materials online. There's not a lot of materials we're printing out because everything gets emailed. If it's in person, are you printing things? Do you need chart paper? That kind of stuff. Recording. We're going to talk about recording later, but are you recording? If you're recording, you have to set up, you have to make some choices correctly to make sure it gets recorded correctly. Do you need breakout rooms? Not every video technology has breakout rooms. Both Zoom and Teams do. We're obviously talking about Zoom today, but there are other video technologies too. Not all of them do breakout rooms. Not all of them do recording. So your technology has to match your design and what you need, right? And I'm sure there are other things you could need, but those are sort of the basic categories. Hosting. This is one of these annoying but important decisions. Basically, is SERESC doing it or a district's doing it? So like, and I did my eval guidelines training back in the fall. And if some of you might have heard that or been to it or knew at least I was doing it, that was a district in general, a district hosted event. So like I went to Dover and I sold Dover 3 days of it, right? And they each cost X amount of money for each session. And Dover was responsible for signing up people for the session. It also meant they're responsible for giving them PD certificates, feedback forms, if they had been in person feeding them. I just took some money and they figured out the rest. And I just showed up at the right time. Versus like a 6-day series that we're doing, SERESC is managing the registration. So everybody pays SERESC and we deal with the money. If it was going to be a place, we have to make sure we have the place. We have to make sure people are getting fed. We have to do the advertising and the outreach and making the brochures and making the registration website. All of that work has to get done. So it does matter. SERESC doing registration takes a lot more time and more management by you. It also potentially can sometimes lead to being paid more though, because SERESC gets all the money. So like when I did the eval guidelines, it was the same charge, 5 people, 25 people. I got paid the same. If we did the registration and 5 people show up or 25 people show up, there's a different amount of money involved. So this is an important distinction for folks. Sometimes you want to make it a district-based event. A lot of districts prefer this. Most of what we do is this kind of stuff, I'll say. A district calls, Merrimack calls and wants training on autism for their elementary teachers. Okay, we'll send someone to go do that. We'll send Kirsten to go do a 2-hour training on autism for 50 teachers. That's like regular kind of PD work that we do. So who's hosting really impacts a lot of downstream decisions that we want to figure out. It very much impacts marketing. So you can't, as it says in the bullet point, the second line there, it's not just one email. You can't just send an email out and assume, no, they'll come in, people register now, right? We're good to go. And they don't all register this day you send the email out. You have to do it multiple times. I've heard people say 5 times is a good number of times to bother people. I know like when I've done trainings with my state association, so we're trying to get 100 to 150 people in the room, it trickles in. And each time we send a blast out, it pops up and pops up and pops up. And the first blast gets you 20, and the second blast gets you 20 more. The third blast gets you 2, and then the fourth blast gets you 30, and then the fifth blast gets you 10 more. And then someone tries to sign up the day of. It's like your registration goes up slowly over time when you're doing your own marketing. And you have to stay after it. You have to think of different, the website, Facebook, in-person, email blasts. There's tons of ways to market. But you want to use them all. You got to keep after people. And as it says, they're self-promoting, right? For the 6-day series that we do, I go or now Zoom into special ed director meetings. When I've done other things, I've gone to principal meetings. I've gone to, you go to meetings of the people who are going to go or sign up or pay others to go and push it, talk about it. Because we have to promote this stuff. It doesn't just magically happen. And the difference between having 10 people in the room and 50 people in the room isn't the quality of your idea. It's your marketing. I've seen wonderful presentations by phenomenal speakers get 15 people because we didn't tell anybody what's happening. And not as good presentations with not as good speakers get 100 people because you marketed the hell out of it.
And Nate, if I
Marketing
could jump in
matters.
here,
Yeah, please.
I will, because I have regular recurring meetings planned with different state associations and relationships, like with the Principals Association and with the Special Ed Directors Association. So as I've done with Nate before, and I've done it with Stacy, I will prompt you on it. So, as long as I know and I'm working with you on your presentation, I'll set up invitations for you to talk about your event. If you can't do it, I'll go to the meeting and talk about it. And I'll talk to you beforehand, so I'll ensure that I'm well versed in it. And as Nate says, it really works.
It does really. And so I'll say, so this is also kind of in a way how this idea came about, right? Because SERESC has been known for 50, I don't know how long we've been around for, Liz, 50 years for doing PD, right? We've been doing PD for ages. We used to own a PD building. SERESC is known as a PD place. We haven't done a lot of it in the past 5 years. And we want districts to call us because, we have some amazing people with great skills here who should be sharing your knowledge. But it does take work, right? We have to be known for doing PD, and people have to think to call SERESC for a need. So the more we're doing, the more people will call. So this is a self-fulfilling event. So, point being, we'll all help each other, right? All right. Budgeting, you're not supposed to read that chart there on the side, but just so you know, that's the worksheet that exists. There is a worksheet. The top section is basically the stats, presenters, days, then it's revenue, and then it's expenses, and then the numbers out at the bottom, right? And it'll show you if it's red or black. So there, we have forms for all this stuff now. And it breaks it all the things you got to think about. To actually realize we have to add a line to it. But anyway, it breaks it out for us so we can make the budget and know if it's going to work or not. All right, this is it. Then I'm basically done. Just pacing real quick because I think this matters. That this stuff does take a while. We started talking about this presentation in like August. I don't know, when did we start talking about doing this idea? It was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
PD doesn't happen next week, especially if we're doing registration. Registration takes 2 months. To do 5 email blasts, to get to some meetings, that takes a while. But in the end, it gets done. So, this is just kind of, to me, most PD events are about 6 months to come to fruition. Some ideas take longer, some you can make happen fast. But in general, I think about 6 months is a reasonable time to take an idea and make it reality. And then month 6.1, as I said, is really important. That stuff Liz is going to talk about, the PD certs, feedback forms, that stuff is important and comes after. With that being said, those are the key takeaways. I basically just said them all, but right, there's lots of details. I just gave you a lot, and I know I did it fast. I kind of did that on purpose. Plus, I just talk fast in general, but there are a lot of details there, but they're in the slides for you to go through. When you get to the points where you're stuck and need help, email us. We'll keep you moving forward. But it takes persistence. It takes a champion. If you want to make your idea the real, you have to be the lead. You have to be the champion. But if you are, it will happen. And we'll get at least one person to be there. No, but it will. Right? Any good idea we can sell. We just have to make it a reality, and you have to help us lead it there. So that's my stuff. Any other questions before we kick it to, I think, what Abigail, right? Any other questions on any of that stuff? All makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense. I mean, it is straightforward stuff. It's just, that's the process. Do the process. It will work. Thanks, guys.
I'm taking control, Nate.
Go for it.
Okay, so I'm Abigail Blodgett. I'm the Social and Emotional Learning Project Coordinator at Across New Hampshire. And if you were here early enough, you heard me excited to see what Linda looks like, because I was hired to work for Across New Hampshire in April. And I'll say I was interviewed for this position in March, and nowhere in the interview was there a question about if I had used Zoom or taught virtual. So the answer to that question would have been, what's Zoom? And here we are in 2021, and I am one of the co-presenters on how to use Zoom. So you all know I have used this a lot in, 9 to 10 months. And I'm so excited to share with you my learning experiences. I think I was maybe not even hired for the position I'm in right now. I was a consultant with Across New Hampshire for about a year before applying for this position. And it was quick. People need PD. Can you do this on Zoom? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And so it was a really quick jump in the deep end of the pool. The water was cold and unforgiving. But here we are. I can now swim in Zoom, and I'm so excited to share a bit of that journey with you today. One of my practices is I tell my audience what's going on this end for me. I do this, I think if I was live in person in a classroom, in an auditorium, everyone can see what I'm doing. I can keep talking about that topic. I can keep modeling, doing whatever it is I need to do, and people can see what's going on. If I need to go answer the door because a participant got locked out when they went to use the little girls' room, everyone knows I'm doing that. I don't need to say I'm walking over to the door now. However, a really long, awkward pause while presenting in Zoom, while you go to do a function, I have found becomes a lot less awkward when you've told your audience, I'm looking over here now because I have 2 computers running today. And one of them says presentation computer. And that's the computer that all of our facilitators are using to make the slideshow function. Or, oh, I see something popped up over here. I'm going to go take care of this. So that's one way that I keep myself calm and centered while using some of these more exciting features of Zoom. And also to keep my audience knowing what's happening over here. And it keeps people engaged, and it keeps people feeling like we're together in this presentation. So what I need to do is actually request control from myself. So from one computer to the next, and I am just about to do that. And so I should have control from computer B. I do. So this is the newest Zoom feature to me. I learned how to use this last week. It's pretty cool. Kathy Hazelton, she has launched our Zoom meeting today from across New Hampshire's business account. And so she is going to be able to turn on for us a live transcript closed captioning button. When you have this function operating, you can select to have Zoom's internal closed captioning turn on for you.
And can I interrupt, Abigail? This
Yeah.
is Christina. Which, this is from a business account?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And do I, as a teacher at SERESC, have access to this account? Because I'm a teacher for the deaf and I'd love to have closed captioning, but I don't get it in the personal account.
Christina,
What?
I found out last week because I use my paid for account for my across work. I'm also a piano teacher and I use a personal account for that. What you need to do is go on zoom.com and log into your account in the web browser. And I checked on my free account. I can use it. I used it this week with piano students from my free account. So I think and thank you for saying that because I didn't mean to mislead. Kathy is the host. So because she hosted this meeting and launched it today, she's the person who can turn it on right now. And that was my cue for her to know I was ready for it. But yeah, if you want that feature turned on, and your question led to a point I was going to make on the slide. So thank you for saying that and speaking up. You can turn it on in your Zoom settings on the web browser. There's a lot of settings that you can change on the web browser that you can't change or access from the app. Really good distinction to know about. Now, what you can do as a non-host participant, down at the bottom of your screen where it says CC Live Transcript, you can click on that. There might be a little up arrow. I'm not seeing one on my end, Kathy. That might be another setting you can control. But in the slide, do you see there's an up arrow? That would allow you to see some options like hide subtitle or view full transcript or subtitle settings. You as a viewer, depending on what settings have been selected in your Zoom account, can change the size of the font, which is really exciting if you are somebody who wants to see a larger font or maybe wants a smaller font, you want to see more of your screen, you have control over that as a viewer depending on what your settings are. And then another option is for participants or yourself to be able to view an entire transcript of what everyone has said in your presentation or in your work together if you're doing one-on-one work. So I've learned a lot about that feature in the past week. I've had a lot of fun with it. I've had a lot of people go, oh, that is so useful. That is so useful for us.
Okay, so I don't, this is Christina again, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but I don't see any of that on the iPad. So that must not go along with an iPad.
I'm taking notes.
Which almost leads me to say, Kathy, have you bought iPads yet? Because maybe an iPad isn't going to work for what I need to do.
So, let's investigate that question about whether this function is available on iPads. We'll put that on our list, and we might even be able to talk about it more in the Q&A if during the break we can look into it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, Christina. That's another thing when you're looking at all of these features that I'm about to go through is to consider, some people might not be able to do what you're doing on the device they're on at the time. That's one thing that we've come up with marketing. Kathy Hazelton's maybe nodding a little bit is, cueing people. This will work best on a computer. Or, that might be something you want to decide. You're not saying that is what you need to do, but that's something you might want to decide in your marketing if you're doing a big PD event. I've done a couple of these where I've created a couple of different options for folks. Like if I was using a feature that I knew most people that have access to, how else could a person engage with this content who doesn't have access to the feature at the same time as everyone else? So it takes a little bit of clever planning and thinking about, ooh, what's going to work, what isn't going to work, and how can I solve those little problems? So we're gonna, if you are on a computer, you should be able to see your option to annotate in your shared screen. It says you're viewing shared computers, presentation computer screen. You have this drop-down menu, and then you have this little option that says annotate. If you click on annotate, a toolbar opens. And you can, right now, use you could click on draw with your mouse on your toolbar and draw right on this slide.
It says that you have disabled screen sharing and there's no access to anything.
I just put enable screen share. I don't know if
Okay.
that has made your annotations show up.
Not yet.
I can see it in mine,
Thank you,
Abigail.
Hillary. So if you can see your annotate choice, if you click on that, Hillary, are you seeing your toolbar open?
Yes.
Okay. Can people raise their hand if their toolbar has opened? So I see several people with a toolbar that has opened. You can write right on this slide right now. If you click on one of those options, I see writing on the slide. So what everyone is seeing is our writing showing up. You can click on stamp or shape and create more.
So that you start from the share screen?
No.
Where do you start from?
View options. Sandy,
view options. Okay.
Yeah. Are you seeing that drop down menu at the top of the screen that says
Yeah.
view options?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So then there's a word annotate underneath zoom ratio.
I don't have that.
Are you on a computer?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, I was in the wrong place.
I was distracted because I was going to view and not view options. They're two different things.
That's what I
View
did
gives you your
too.
grid or not grid. I had that same problem, Sandy.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Okay, now I've got it. Yeah.
Chris Herrick, do you have it too? Did that clear it up? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So most of us have this feature right now. Keep it open. Keep it open. I'm about to change slides. And Kathy, are you able to clear that right now? My view on my screen, I have a little bit of something funky going on. I don't know if you're able to clear.
There you go.
Thank you.
No problem.
So right now, right on the slide, I'm asking you, how painful do you find learning new technology? And right on the slide, you can use the annotate feature to circle or underline or indicate where you're at, or you can throw that in the chat. So if you're somebody without annotate, this is an example of what I might do is say, if you don't have access to an annotate feature, we'd love to hear your number in the chat. I see a 1 or a 2. I see a 4. I don't see any 10s yet. Anybody in the chat? I see another 2. Oh, somebody's between a 6 and a 7. 7 to 9. I see 7 and 9. So for some of us, this can be a real stressor, And for others, no sweat. It's a great spectrum. Or I'm going to put mine in. Being very honest, I do sometimes find it stressful.
So in the chat, Abigail, we're seeing 7 to 9.
Yeah.
A 1, a 4.
And I put a 5. I actually do get a little bit stressed out sometimes when learning new technology, especially if I have a time constraint and I have to learn it by a certain amount of time. But that is an annotate feature. And then again, Kathy, for some reason, it's a little bit odd that I am not, because, oh, here it is.
Yeah. I don't know why you can't, but I'll take care of it for you.
Because I just learned. So I had mine set up for dual monitors and now I'm not using them. So my bar wasn't opening in the right spot and I found it. So we're good now. Whiteboard is a feature. I'm trying to decide if I want to share my whiteboard from this computer. I'm going to share it from here. Oh. I'm about to stop the presentation and I'm going down to share screen. And I am sharing there's options that show up. I can share the screen. I can share my iPhone. I could share, my email happens to be open. I could share the PowerPoint presentation, but inside of Zoom, everyone who has Zoom can open a piece of the app called Whiteboard. I'm going to ask you not to do that. I enabled screen sharing so people, in case that was a problem, so I'm going to ask you not to actually do that right now. And everyone right now is seeing my whiteboard, and I can use that same annotation bar or a very similar annotation bar to write and draw. Here we go. I can write, I can add text. And I'm sorry that I'm not looking at you because I'm using the other computer. But that is, oh, hi, Kathy. Kathy's enabled her annotate bar again, and she is writing on my whiteboard. Tricky, tricky Kathy Hazelton. Anyone else, if anybody else wants to open their annotate bar again and try writing on my whiteboard, you have my permission.
There is a feature on the annotation bar. It's the second symbol. It's an uppercase T and it says text. And if you click on that and then click on the board, it'll give you a text box that you write in. Once you click outside of that text box, it'll show up on Abigail's whiteboard.
Pretty fun. Somebody drew a big swirly. Well done. Okay, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation. And I still have control. This is just so exciting. You can save these. If you're working with somebody or if you're doing a PD and you've done some collaborative work in your whiteboard, that can be saved. It can be saved as an image file or a PDF. Nice little thing to realize when you're working with some of these features is knowing how they can be saved. Same with the closed captioning. If you have enabled it to do so, you can save those transcripts of the entire session together. Breakout rooms are a feature that allow us to have, so right now everybody is in the main room. And in a moment, Kathy is going to send us, as the host, she's going to send us all into breakout rooms, which will appear almost exactly like where we're at right now, but with however many participants she's decided to send. Liz, did you have something you wanted to add about breakout rooms?
I did not, no.
Oh, okay, your mic came off. So for me, I'm just always perusing my screen for a mic that went off, and that usually cues me that somebody has something to say.
Oh, thank you for noticing that, but no.
Not yet? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. So one thing that you can do if you're using breakout rooms for a group of participants and you know you want specific people to be in groups together, you can assign the rooms individually. I'm co-hosting an ongoing series right now that's going for 8 weeks with the same participants every month. So planning for people to do small work together is something we take advantage of at Across. Other times, I might not know who the audience is, so it's less important for me to assign different people to rooms, and you can randomly have the Zoom app randomly assign you your rooms for you, which is what's going to happen today. So we'll be suddenly in a new Zoom window, and then we'll be called back to the main session. You do not have to press anything to get back to the main session. But if you accidentally leave our meeting, you can use the same link that you used to get here in the beginning to get back. So
that's good advice, because I've even done that doing a training. So Abigail, would you like the rooms to just go out for 1 minute?
Ready, set, go. You can say hi to whoever's in there, and we're going to be back before you know it.
All right, everyone, I'm opening up your breakout rooms. Do you want to come sit? Come here. You good boy.
Welcome back, one and all. I just demonstrated, I don't know if you caught, I demonstrated what happens to me more often than not, a lot more often than not, is when I come back from a breakout session and I say, welcome back, everyone, I'm still on mute. Kathy knows this. She has watched me co-present and present numerous times, and she probably has a little like sticker chart for her own amusement of how many times Abigail's going to come back from a breakout room and start talking on mute. Can
I share a little tip that I learned from actually it was a training my daughter did, or a conference my daughter did, that it was hundreds of teenagers they had them all sorted into groups. Nobody knew each other. But they wanted those groups to stay the same all day. So they had them type their first name and their color so that when they assigned their groups, they could be more deliberate about it. So like when we do training, some teachers are like, can we have the infant toddler teachers together and the preschool teachers together? But I don't know what you teach. So they could write their name and then their grade or their name. If you've pre-sorted them, you can sort them by color and just let them know what their color is or their number or something.
Yeah, great tip. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, great tip. And then in our Q&A at the end, other tips like that would be a perfect time to pop in with those. So everyone has had the experience now in this, I can say for certainty because you just did, of being thrust into a breakout room and pulled back in together. It says I have control. Oh, okay. I left in a breakout room and I came back, so I have to give my second computer control. Sharing video. Sharing video is a multi-step process. If you're like me and you're working with a PowerPoint presentation, you've put the link to the video in your presentation. When I share my screen and I just share my presentation and I press that link, no one can see my video unless I stop sharing the PowerPoint and share my web browser where the video opened. There's a number of different ways of sharing video. That's the one I'm going to do today. So I'm going to switch camera views. I think it's important that you feel like I'm looking at you.
Abigail, can you say all of that again one more time, please?
Was it about the videos?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Sandy.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. So what I'm doing is I'm about to click on this link down here. What's going to happen is my video is going to open. It's going to open in my internet, in my web browser. It's not going to automatically show you my video. So I'm going to have to stop sharing this PowerPoint and reshare my web browser screen. That's what's going to happen. So the picture on the slide is showing you what it looks like when I press the share button. And I have all of these options of what to do to share this. When I open this, I'm going to select the web browser that has my video open. There's this little button down here that says share computer sound. I'm going to select that. I'm going to click right there. So there's a check mark. And if all goes as planned, I should be able to share this video with you, or I'm going to learn about something. I clicked the link. So now you don't know this, but my web page has opened. I am getting that video ready to share. I just pressed my new share button and I'm selecting the Chrome web browser that my video opened in. I'm clicking the box that says share computer sound. I'm clicking that right now as we speak. And then I'm pressing the share button. So now everyone should be seeing first meetings in Zoom with this scary alien-like character. Now, there's an added complication for me right now. This is not typical. It's because I have two computers going. So I just need to quickly do a sound thing and then I'm going to press play. You couldn't hear me say that. I'm saving us all from having a very unpleasant sound in a moment. So give me just a second. Now presentation computer should be talking and I'm going to press play. Please let me know if you cannot hear.
Your microphone, it's not on.
Click on the button with the picture of the microphone.
Every time a villain calls in, this happens.
Hello? Hello?
Well, now we can
So
hear
annoying.
you, but we cannot see you.
Every time.
That's like talking to my parents.
Okay, so everybody should have been able. Everyone should have been able to hear that really funny clip. And you can see presentation computer is talking. I had to switch my microphone, otherwise we would have gotten some feedback. I lost my train of thought just for a second. I'm gonna come back. This is a tip. If you've shared a video and it is linked to YouTube, when you come back together and you're looking at everyone like I am in the screen that says my name, it might start playing the next YouTube video unless you have pressed pause or closed your web browser. I learned this the hard way. It was fortunately very funny, but it could be odd if a random video popped up that you were not meaning to share. So that's a little bit of a caution. I'm going to reshare the PowerPoint. Give me a second, please. And thank you. Okay. I'm going to reshare the PowerPoint. I'll find my slide. give remote control back to myself. You won't be able to hear me for a moment. Everyone should be able to hear me again on my main screen.
And just one quick tip too, but if you guys are doing videos, and
This is a lot of work.
I think videos are great to do. Right? Yes, as
Nate,
Eva
I
gets
can't
herself.
hear you. Oh, I turned my volume down.
Can other people hear me? Hopefully.
Oh yeah.
Just say one quick tip for sharing videos, or if you're going to do videos, make sure you know what the Wi-Fi is going to be wherever you're sitting when you're doing a presentation. Like if you're going to do the presentation at a school, like I'm going to go work at Litchfield Elementary School, and I'll just stay there and do it there, whatever it's going to be. If you can't get online, you can't share videos. So it's just like you have to know what the Wi-Fi is like if you're going to do it in person. If know where you're delivering the PD from, and make sure that there's Wi-Fi. Otherwise, the videos won't work. It's a small thing, but I think sometimes we forget that we might do quick presentations somewhere that we don't usually sit. And
thank you for saying that, Nate.
Oops, thank you, Nate. I also wanted to note Mary's question in the chat box about whether others could capture or copy the video, and how to protect it and prevent that from happening.
I don't have an answer to that right away. One of our other facilitators might.
I mean, what I put in the chat box is that, if you're sharing the video, people can't, unless they have a screen recording software, which is a whole different event, they in general can't capture it in some fashion from Zoom or Teams or these things. It's a uninteractive display in that respect. So if you're showing a video, it's just there, they can't take it.
It's a really important question from my point of view in terms of confidentiality.
Yeah, that's what I figured you meant. So if you have the video yourself and you're showing it, unless they have screen capture software on their computer, which would be a different event, they can't take it.
Right. So right now, Mary, we're recording. The host has the power to record their own Zoom meeting. So when you see that it's recording, that's something that you have the power to do as a host. And so therefore you'd be recording your own material that you shared.
But what if I am not the host? Then I don't have any control, do I? Other than telling the host, please do not video this.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
As far as I know, I can stand to be corrected. I'm okay with that. But as far as I know, that's true.
And if you're being recorded, it does tell you, like it says at the top,
yes.
There's active confirmation you're being recorded. So you could say, please stop it. And if they don't, you say, please stop it, because you'll know if it's not possible to record through Zoom secretly. I don't think anyway.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. That's helpful.
Yeah. Really, really good questions. Thank you, Mary. So generally speaking, when I use any one of these features, it is not back to back like we just did. And I'm sure you can just completely understand why. That was so much work for me as the person controlling this. And it was made even more work because I'm presenting on this one laptop and I'm controlling the other one for the purposes of our 4 facilitators today. So if you're thinking about some of these features and like, oh, which one might I use in the future? Do know that maybe your perception of, wow, Abigail is like working up a sweat over there. I can see she's starting to get a little shine on her face. That's not a typical feeling that a person has because I'm not typically doing a breakout room, stopping sharing screen, resharing screen, video, closed caption, all in a row. That would be, that goes back to intentional planning on how are we going to use this to be effective. And also me as a presenter, what will be going on inside of me if I'm requiring myself to do 50 different things right in a row. We have a poll as the final feature I'm going to talk about today. Kathy, hit it. So you can select what advanced Zoom functions do you think you will use in the future? You can select more than one. If you like a lot of ideas, you can select a lot of ideas. If you're like, I really am only going to do screen sharing, by all means, that's your choice. Kathy, can the attendees see the live results as they're coming in?
I can only see the back end, so I'm not sure, but I
Oh.
can end the polling when everyone's ready. I'll just wait a few more seconds.
Yep.
All I can see is the screen share. I can't see any of the polling.
Ah, and so Christina, you're on an iPad.
Yep.
Nate, did you have your
Oh.
iPad still logged in?
Oh, but I can. But I mean, I can. But actually, because I'm logged. Well, let's log me now as a presenter. Yeah, I'll log in on the iPad because I can see the results, but I can't vote as a co-host, which is
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, I'm gonna end it in 5 seconds.
Okay.
No,
5, 4,
Sorry, Nate.
3, 2, 1. Okay, so folks should be seeing the poll sharing results. It looks like screen sharing and closed captioning are the winners, tied for 78%. Whiteboard is close behind. Breakout room and annotation was at the back of the pack. Here we go.
Great.
Great. Well done, everyone. With that, a best practice, whoopsie daisy, is to have a break. If anything's over an hour, our eyes need it and our bodies need it. So we'll see you back at 2:21. Ding, 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 ding.
There's an online timer and I haven't been able to find it. I've been in sessions before when other folks have used it. It's really fun. But if anybody finds something like that, please let us know.
You didn't like my dinging?
I loved it.
Kathy, I'm getting you the power.
Thank you, Abigail.
You're welcome.
Welcome back from your break, everybody.
Okay, I might have accidentally done something in the meantime. You might
That's
have to
okay.
click.
See if I can go back.
No,
Okay.
I'll help you.
There we go. No, you're good. Thank you so much, Abigail. So we've gone over how to plan a training, the elements that you need to get it together, the elements that you can use on Zoom to make it interactive and interesting and get a lot of participation. And I'm just going to go over a few more elements of being a good presenter and some of the things to consider in using both of those sets of topics that Nate and Abigail shared in putting it all together. Thinking of planning a lesson plan or a training in person, very similar to Zoom, there's just a few more things to think about in order to make it that interactive and effective piece. Introductions, icebreakers, energizers, and closers. First, evaluate the length of your training. If it's a one-time 1.5 hour or a 3 hour or multi-day or series, that's going to determine how long, for example, your introduction or icebreaker might be. So a good kind of time thought would be for every 60 minutes of your training, that would be about 5 minutes that you would want to have for an introduction. The other thing to consider is, will this be a team that's working together and is building community and networking a major part of your objective? Is it a long-term series where folks will be working together and really getting to know each other is important? Or if it's a 1.5 hour one-time training, you might want to spend less time on the introductions and the getting to know you part. It's also nice, though, for folks to know a little bit about you. I've been to some interactive trainings online where people share a picture of their family or their hobby or their pet or something about them, and it just gives that extra connection to the trainer. So setting the tone is very important. How you make that connection right from the get-go will determine the amount of connection. Keep it relevant to the content, opening with a statistic or a quote or some sort of information about your content might get folks thinking about what you're going to be presenting, but also it would kind of bring everybody together right from the beginning, which can be a challenge virtually. So varying the activities. I know Across uses in person, and we've tried to adapt some of the things through virtual trainings, a book called Moving Beyond Icebreakers by Stanley Pollock. We were fortunate enough to be able to be trained with Stanley and another one of our team members, and it just is a great resource that you can find on Amazon. Moving Beyond Icebreakers by Stanley Pollock again. Bringing people together and getting people to think about the content and also creating that community. You can also use something like a chime to bring everybody together. Abigail kind of did her own thing, but even just having one of the mindful chimes or a bell or something to kind of bring folks together after a break or even at the beginning, letting folks know that signal that we're ready to go. Energizers are just a relevant, quick activity to refresh, restate, and review the content so far. It can be something as pre-planned as the poll that Abigail did. It kind of brought everything together and gave people an opportunity to participate. It could be something like a one-word whip on a takeaway or an action idea. And it's always nice to allow folks to have a choice. They can write something in the chat box, or they can unmute themselves and just share right away. Some people have, different comfort levels in person, and it's the same online. A closer, kind of like an introduction, but it's more of a way of wrapping up. Consider the length of your training. Again, if it's a 60-minute or a 90-minute training, it might just be a 10-minute activity. Or if it's a multi-day series, it might be half an hour to 45 minutes. And this could be anything that ties everything together, kind of reviews all the key concepts. It could be a jigsaw. It could be people working in breakout rooms, or it could be what's your $1 million idea for a quick closer, or it could be even something planned like a quiz, or there's I forget the website address, but it's Kahoot, and you can set up an actual quiz pre-planned online, and it's a Kahoot quiz. A lot of teachers use it. That's another type of tool that you can use as a closer. So social emotional learning skills and presence. Just as we are with our children and with our colleagues, setting that tone and creating ways and opportunities to create acknowledgement, respect, and valuing each other can be involved in the planning and the presentation of your content. Just about like thinking about your goals for a classroom, we know as educators that our energy sets the tone. So some things to consider: creating that community and that environment, allowing for people to unmute and jump in when they have a question, or write something in the chat box. This is a great time to really lean on your moderator, because sometimes it's hard to see what you're presenting, the faces of the people that you're presenting to, and follow the chat box at the same time. So really lean on your moderator, and your moderator would be comfortable to say, hey, I noticed so-and-so said this in the chat box, and just speak up. So make sure you have that understanding in the beginning. Acknowledge that everyone's coming from a different situation. Technology is challenging for a lot of us. Sometimes just getting onto something and finding the link takes longer than we anticipate. And we might be later than expected, or not ready, or not in the right headset to get there. So allow for people to have that shifting time, that time to get settled, and acknowledging that there are probably people remote learning downstairs, grandkids, kids in the house. Maybe you're at work and you're trying to find a quiet corner as a participant. So understanding and allowing all those situations can really go a long way to building that community feeling and understanding. So respecting each participant, follow the time that you said you would follow. We all have busy schedules. Cutting out some time to attend a training is important, but also respecting people's time and making sure they get that break and finishing up on time is really important, so that they know when they can check their email, or check on a child, or check on something else that's going on at work or at home. And evaluate as you go. Doing kind of a thumbs up check to gauge feedback throughout your training is okay. It can be very informal. And at the end of the training, Liz is going to talk more about evaluations, but using evaluations and using that feedback to make things better the next time, or change things, or completely switch it up. We've learned to do that, Abigail and I, especially at Across. You can't always gauge people as easily virtually as you can in person. So don't be afraid to really use that evaluation feedback. And if it's a series, consider an evaluation midway, or on 1 or 2 modules that you've done, even if it's a long series. And that way you can kind of see if you're really reaching the audience and their needs. Let's see. Communication. If you have a lot of information, consider emailing some handouts prior to the session. it's easy to get overwhelmed, and especially with screen time, the fatigue level may set in earlier. So emailing that information, if it's loads of stuff, prior to the training is really helpful. If you have jargons or acronyms that you use, emailing a glossary is helpful for people to have kind of on the side so that they're not lost as you go along. And remember that the participants are coming from varying degrees of experience and knowledge. Using a pre-training survey is something I know Nate does as well. And Abigail has asked questions, what's your comfort level? What's your experience? What are you hoping to learn from this training or series? And that can really help you plan and use your time wisely and really meet the needs of the participants. Honor your style. Just be yourself. You don't need to sound or look or be like somebody else. We all have our own styles. We all have our own comfort level with technology and also just training in general. So just honor your own presence and just enjoy it, and find the things that you like about it and really focus on those. And pacing yourself, make sure that you're using a clear, slow, but not too slow language and articulation. If folks feel like you're rushing to get through a slide, they're not going to pay attention and it's not going to stick with them. So avoid rushing and take your time. The other thing is there's a technology lag. So if you're asking a question in person, I remember when I was in school to be a teacher, I had one professor and she said, I always wait 17 seconds before I move on to the next question for kids. And I thought, wow, that's a really long time. But with technology, definitely take that extra time, because sometimes people are looking to find the unmute button, or they're looking to find the chat box, or somebody's walked in to their room. So if you're asking a question, be patient, and you might be surprised. I mean, things come rolling in slowly, and just take your time. Connecting and illustrating using visuals. Visuals are so helpful in connecting and representing concepts that you're talking about. Billboard type visuals, graphs, flowcharts, illustrations, anything that can kind of spark that visual memory with also the auditory, that they're getting both, and trying to get that concept through a little bit easier. Abigail talked about videos. And videos are great. Make sure you don't use long videos, because you might start to lose that participation. Anywhere between 2 and 4 minutes is recommended. And it's often recommended to give folks a task. You can even break, I was in a training, they broke us up into 2 groups, and one group was asked to define the perspective of one of the people in the video, and the other half of the group was asked to define the perspective of the other person. So when we came back, we had a great discussion about what the experience was in different perspectives. Oh, the other thing, Abigail went over this too, but if you embed a link in your PowerPoint, always have a backup link and have it open on your browser just in case that link doesn't work, so that you're not lost spending time re-looking it up and Googling it if it doesn't come out from your presentation as you planned. Music. If someone's paying for your training, you have to be sure that you use royalty-free music. There's actually, you can Google online royalty-free music, and there are resources that you can download for free and that you can include in your trainings. But if it's not, you have to get permission, and that is a bit more complicated. Or if you want to sing your own song or make your own tunes, you can do that. But just be sure that you source royalty-free music if you're adding that into your presentation. Some PowerPoint tips, and these are just tips to consider, but using a large font, a large Arial font, something that's easy to read, 48 to 54 point. check your grammar and spelling. Ask a colleague or someone in your family to review your presentation before you give it. I've done things and just the simplest things, it was just a typo. And if you just have someone look it over for you before, you can save yourselves a situation that you might not want to be in. And it is sometimes, we like to send out PowerPoints prior to training so folks have an idea of what to expect. And there is a way to send it in through saving it in a multiple slide per page and then turning it into a PDF. And that's recommended if you're going to email it to people, and that way they can't change it. And it's something easy for them to print as well. Use images when you can. If there's too much content or words on a slide, participants will end up reading the slide and they're going to stop listening to you. So anytime you can use an image or just a short point about what you're talking about, you're likely to have them listen to you a little bit more. Let's see. Use 5 points or less. If you have longer sentences of things, that's okay. But consider rolling out 1 point at a time, 1 sentence at a time, and that way you're keeping the attention of your listeners. Use contrasting colors, black and white, blue and white. Try to avoid the colors that might be challenging for folks with colorblind or visual challenges. Make it easy to read. And to limit screen fatigue, encourage dialogue and conversation when possible. So, give you a second on this one. Humor, not to be left out. We all have our different sense of humor. Sometimes it's harder to convey on virtually, but that's okay. I'm not a great joke teller. I think maybe Nate is a better joke teller, or the sure. So you're good at stories, but so if you want to find a picture or a comic or just something to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, don't be afraid to put that in and keep it fresh. Humor can be so powerful. It can create bonds. It diffuses stress. It can refresh, and it can get people's attention. Provides motivation. It actually boosts brain power. It increases the acceptance of new ideas. Humor can promote divergent thinking and boost persuasion and reduce anxiety. It can also increase happiness. So why not throw in a little joke in there? Could be anything, joke, riddle, comic. Could be a picture of a cute little fluffy kitten.
I like humor. Well done, Kathy. That's very funny.
Thank you. Yeah, that science teacher, I had to use that one. That was great. Okay. Oops, I think I went too far. Let me go back one. It's my technology lag. No. All right, so you got a little preview. Technical glitches. See, I was just giving you a demonstration. The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. Expect at least one. That's just how it is, and it's okay. And talking through them, it helps people understand that this is just the way it is. We're all working through this. I think most of us never even used Zoom or may have not used Zoom before last year, and glitches are okay. But the best thing to do is talk with your moderator, or if you're co-training with other trainers or presenters, talk to them and make sure that you understand what roles you're expecting each of you to handle. For example, the PowerPoint, Abigail put it up on a separate computer so that we could all have our own computer screens, see people, see the presentation, and then share remote control. There are lots of options that you can do, and pre-planning and practicing is really the best way to go about it. If you're working with a team, be very clear and responsible about what elements you're going to be doing and what they're going to be doing. Practice using the features, the annotations, the polls, the breakout rooms. Use your colleagues, use your family, or use us. We're happy to work with people and help you figure out some of these tools and practice them and feel comfortable on them before you do your own training. Also have a backup plan. If your PowerPoint's not coming up, make sure you have it printed out so that you have your talking points, or you have a different way to do some teaching. Discussion questions or a task for them to do in case you're trying to fix something that didn't work. And also just thank participants. Thank you for your patience and understanding as I try and find the link for this, or as I try and find my spot in the PowerPoint. It can just gently remind folks that that's what you need, and they won't be, they'll be understanding and they'll be forgiving. Let's see. The chances are too, they're learning from you as well. Most of what I've learned is from participating on trainings and working with other trainers. So, handling disruptors. Speaking of time, I just want to check. Okay, so I'll go through quickly, but disruptions typically happen because we're not prepared. So starting and ending on time, use your moderator. If someone's being kind of a know-it-all or not participating or jumping in too much, ask them what it is they know, what's their perspective, and ask them to share one point with you. If someone's not engaged, give them a role. Just like in the classroom with our children, sometimes they just need an additional opportunity to focus on. The sleeper, we can vary our vocal patterns, vary the activity. Maybe you need to introduce a kinesthetic activity, like we're going to take a break and touch 3 walls and then come back and get back into our conversation. If you have someone that's withdrawn and not participating, perhaps we need to switch it up to a small group activity. You can kind of judge based on the feel of the participants. All right, let's move on here. And time management. Balancing the content, the participation, and revisiting it. Focusing, for example, on an hour, the content would be like a 20-minute focus. The participation would be about 15 minutes, and the revisiting would be another 15 minutes. Keeping people involved in using the content. And that would be for a 60-minute training. Have a mental break every 20 minutes, change it up a little bit. Let's see. As I mentioned before, with multiple trainers, assign the roles, pre-plan, practice, and be prepared. Also have some water. You never know when you need a little bit of water. So that's about all I had.
Oh, good. I just, that was wonderful. I'm just concerned because people are dropping off, and I know we're quite a bit beyond our 2:30 stop time.
Okay.
So my apologies to everyone. I am fine if you would prefer to engage in Q&A and ask your own questions. I'm fine with not visiting my slides, which are only a few minutes, but I can, in terms of PD certificates, evaluations, recording, I'm happy to walk any one of you through that and support you individually for your presentation. So it really is up to you as to whether you'd like to engage in the Q&A now and focus on your own individual topics. Just let us know. No worries.
Kathy,
okay.
Did you have a question? I think you were muted. I didn't know if Kathy was asking something.
Kathy.
Skoglund, no, okay.
Okay, I'll take the, I will request remote control, and I will quickly and literally in a few minutes walk through my slides. Let's see here.
Can I just ask a question to Abigail?
Yeah.
Before you move on to that, can you just tell me how to save production?
So on Whiteboard, on your toolbar, so the toolbar where you clicked on to draw or type, all the way to the end, there's a little option that says save.
Okay.
You can click there and it will save it automatically to your computer.
Okay.
Now
good.
there's a little down arrow. If you click on that little down arrow, it will give you the option to save it as a graphic image or to save it as a PDF. That's where you would select one of those two options.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
And Abigail, I requested control of the screen.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Good to go.
Okay. So our post-session, wrapping it up, talking about the professional development certificate, the evaluations, the recording, and an optional Q&A. I mean, imagine after going through all of this, there's still items to attend to after you've done the session. But in order to make sure that it's really wrapped up tight, that is the case. We have a few things, just trying to get back to, okay, sorry. A few things. I'm not sure what's going on with my. So I'll talk about professional development certificates, and Abigail, if you could just find that slide and put it up.
The Q&A?
Actually, professional development certificates. So one of the things that's really important is that you market that, because folks aren't interested in attending a session unless they can incorporate it into their professional development plan. So we have a template. I provided you a screenshot of the template. We send it to you in a Word document, and it's super easy. You just put in the names of the presenters and the name of the session, and participants can either put in their own name or you can for them. The thing to remember is that you shouldn't send it to folks until they've participated in the entire session. For this session, because we've gone over our time, we're just going to send it to everyone who was a part of it. In terms of evaluations, I'm going to ask Nate to drop the evaluation into the chat box, because that's a really good way to incentivize completion. And I'm going to encourage you to use an electronic evaluation. Microsoft Forms is available to all of you through your Microsoft 365 account, and it works really well. One way to get practice with it is just to try it out and do a sample survey. I would keep the survey short, the evaluation short, no more than 10 questions. And a mixture of multiple choice and narrative works well as keeping it anonymous so people don't feel badly if they have something negative to say. And I'm not sure why, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble moving through the slides with my mouse. I wanted to talk about recording. And the key issue here is you do not want to record on your device. You need to record on the cloud in order to share it with folks outside of the organization. Also, recording on your device takes up massive amounts of space. So the way to record on the cloud is to do it through a business Zoom account. You cannot do it through a personal Zoom account. And we will make that business Zoom account available to you. Once you do have the business Zoom account, all you need to do is go into, and I'm just looking for the next slide here. For some reason, my mouse isn't working.
Okay, I got you.
Thank you.
Yep.
You just sign in and you'll see a drop down in Zoom that is entitled recordings. And you'll have two choices, cloud recordings or local. And you can see I crossed out local and highlighted cloud. And it shows you exactly what to do in terms of going into your profile page and then clicking on record to cloud. We can help you with that. The idea is after you get the cloud recording, you want to be able to share out the link, and we need to be able to post it on our YouTube channel. So my slide, Abigail, with the YouTube channel was partly an excuse to show everyone and show off the fact that we have a YouTube channel and we already have videos posted on it. So these are really short SEL videos we created in the spring. But you can see up front here, there's an upload video tab, and you would just click on that. We, in fact, will do that for you. So you don't have to worry about that. And we'll develop a protocol for paying customers to go to our YouTube channel, and there'll be a paywall that will require them to pay for a recorded session so they could see it whenever they choose on demand. And then finally, my next slide is the Q&A, the optional Q&A session. This really allows, and we can start our Q&A session now. This really allows us to take a deeper dive into topics and allows participants to ask questions that they might be embarrassed about or might have been disruptive to the session. It also allows all the presenters to kind of have a brainstorm with the participants. It's like a panel discussion. So that's really fun. And I would like to thank you for your patience, including the fact that my mouse isn't working, your patience with us going over the timelines and actively engaging in this session. And I'd like to thank the presenters, Nate, Kathy, and Abigail, for their time and expertise.
Very welcome.
Who has hung in here with us and has a question that we could answer? Christina, thank you. And Kathy. Chris?
Hillary's here.
Hillary, are you with us?
It's only Friday afternoon, you know.
We can take any question that you'd like to ask, even if it's beyond what the scope of the presentation was. We're happy to try it.
Yeah, I guess I do staff trainings on the FM and the DM systems for a lot of districts.
Right.
Typically, I try to group as many people together in a district before I go in and do the training. With everything being virtual, a lot of districts had asked me if they could videotape me doing the trainings. And I kind of said no, because I get paid to do that. And if they videotape me, then obviously at that point it's on their end and I'm not getting paid to do that.
Right.
So that probably would be a great way to use like a Zoom presentation like this, to be able to do a training where they would have to pay to sign up or however that would be. But at the same time, I don't know, how
you can do it somewhat informally and loosely, but easily with Zoom. There's paid products that we haven't paid into, we've discussed but never done, that do this like professionally, and each person gets a code and it counts people, and it's much more sophisticated. Like when I did this some with Zoom, essentially, like I was selling this training, it's 25 seats. If you wanted 50 seats, you pay twice. And so a couple districts paid for additional seats to let people watch online, and recorded me. Like one of the sessions I did for the district live, we recorded, and I gave like the special ed director a password. And so they essentially paid for so many views. And I just kind of had to watch the online Zoom thing to see if that many views got used up or not. None of them came close. And so like it's not sophisticated, but I got paid a little bit for it, like as opposed to getting paid $10 a view. I just got like a chunk of money and they did what they wanted to do. And they could have shared the password with anybody, they can do whatever they want, but you can see it. But then I had done one for each district. Whereas if you have just one that you keep reselling, you can't keep as close data count on it. It's like multiple people have the password at the same time, you're gonna lose track of it.
Right. And it's something where, every year the child goes up to a different grade and has a different team of teachers. So I end up redoing it every year for the new team of teachers. So I hesitate to have that in the district again, because, they can just take any videotape of me and use it the next time, but it doesn't necessarily always apply that year.
And you can change the password. Eventually could say, hey, here's a password for you guys. You can use it for the 5th, 6th, and 7th, and it's going to change. So get you folks to watch it within these 3 days and pay me $500. And then they get a password that's valid for 3 days. And on the 8th, you log in and change the password.
Okay. And then they wouldn't be able to record it on their end.
You're right. They couldn't keep it. You can say, you can block download, view only with a password. So
okay.
then
I guess at some point then I need to sit down with you and
we can talk about, but you can do that kind of thing. It's not hyper sophisticated, but it can kind of work. We haven't ever, if a bunch of folks want to start doing that, we could consider, because the online like hosting sites are expensive. So we just haven't had a business case for it. but I mean, they exist. It's expensive.
Right.
But Zoom has some capacity for it that, yeah, but we can talk offline about.
Okay.
Yeah. Just if, yeah, as long as it's not
And
too
then
frequent.
I guess my second question is, if all of this, you know, I am on an iPad and I like the iPad. I've got everything, but I don't know if I should have an iPad if I can't access all these things on the screen.
Right. You,
So-
Christine, you have a SERESC laptop, am I correct?
No, I don't. I have an iPad.
Oh, I thought you also had a laptop. Okay.
No. Feel
Do you
free.
have, do you have any computer? Like you can log into your Zoom account from any computer. So like if you have a personal computer, you could still log into your SERESC Zoom account through that personal computer.
Right, and I do that.
Change settings, you know, kind of
But which is what I just tried doing. So I'm going to have to see how that, you know, works. But I'm just thinking for, you know, if I'm on the road or whatever, and I'm in my car and I'm meeting with a student over Zoom, I'm typically doing it on the iPad because that's where I keep all my school stuff rather than my personal computer.
Right.
So that's where I don't know if I'm, you know, I had originally said a laptop, like a MacBook or something, because I like the platform, but I don't know. It's just something in my head, I guess. I got to figure out if the iPad is going to do everything that I want it to do, or if I really should get a laptop.
Right. So, and why don't you and Kathy and I talk about that too offline at some point?
Okay.
Because just so you know, we are probably not allowing employees to buy, Apple laptops. We're going to look at PCs. Yeah. So you might want to consider that too.
Okay.
And that's for cybersecurity purposes, Christina. It makes it easier. But we can talk about that, Kathy, you and I.
Yeah, I think there are several issues that have come to the surface this afternoon listening to this with regard to hearing and vision use of technology. So yeah, I think we need to have a deeper conversation. The potential for this usage is huge, but we've got to make sure if we're going to make an investment in the equipment that we get the right equipment to move this forward.
Right. I mean, I carry my iPad with me all the time, which is why I was kind of going for the smaller device, just because it's in a bag with all my other stuff and, you know, what have you, going from school to school. But if it's really not going to do everything I need it to do, then, you know, laptop might be the way to go.
Is some of the settings you set up like once, like if you want to turn on the capacity to have closed captions or multiple hosts or use breakout rooms, some of these things you have to log into the Zoom thing and turn on. But once they're on, they're on. So it might be that you have to log into a computer, activate a bunch of stuff, and then your iPad will be able to do it. But you just can't get to it via the iPad yet. Or some of it you can't do it. I mean, I don't know because I don't have an iPad as much, but I mean, some of it, like there's sort of two different problems. One is turning it on at all, and the other is turning it on in a meeting. And sometimes the turn it on at all has to happen from a computer, then the meeting is different.
As a participant, I don't have access to a lot of the things you're talking about here. I have to go on Zoom as the host and see if I can do the whiteboard and do annotate and do all of that if it shows up when I'm hosting, because it's not showing up when I'm
participating.
Right. On your iPad, it isn't.
Right.
Okay. So
and
maybe
I think, Kathy, you must be experiencing the same thing.
So
yeah,
I've actually got to go out there to the meeting. I have at 3, so I got to run everybody. But thank you
you,
all.
Nate.
It was fun. I love this kind of stuff. It's good. It's important stuff. So
thank you.
we'll see a bunch of you soon.
I always learn a lot from you, Nate.
Same.
Same. That was great.
Does anybody else have a question, or should we wrap up?
We're at 3.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you all.
Don't forget that you can ask us or use us for, questions, practice. Let us know. We're here.
Email me. I'll Zoom with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you both. I'm
Thanks,
not sure
Liz.
what, Abigail, thank you on the my keys are sticky. So I went from my mouse and I thought, well, I'll just move using my keys and they're all sticky. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe, yeah, because it was working at the beginning of the session. Maybe I have IT Guardian look at it. I don't know, but thank you.
I had a couple times too where mine didn't go when I wanted.
I felt bad because my blood sugar is dropping.
Oh no.
So Kathy probably knows this about me, but I start to get less on top of things. So you were like, I need help. I'm like, oh, she needs help.
No, you were great.
Second to like process this. And I'm like, eat the cornbread, eat the cornbread.
I'm so sorry. You know, of course, it always happens, right? It's Murphy's Law. Whenever you're going to give a presentation, the technology won't work. And I have no idea because like right now, well, I don't have control over it. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But thank you for bearing with me. I think they were pretty much done anyway at this point.
Yeah, they're dropping.
Yeah. Okay. Take care,
That's
guys.
okay. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Abigail.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend.
You too.